Hi, welcome back to the second half of tonight's show, where we're going to look forward to all of the European Cup matches, especially Leinster's game against Montpellier on Saturday. So, boys, there's 3 fixtures in this year's this round of Champions Cup games that were actually fixtures from last season.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we played Montpellier. They were in our group last year. We managed to grab a desperate
Losing bonus
last
point.
minute losing bonus point after Issa grabbed all of the scores in that game.
That's
2
right.
tries and a load of penalties and conversions.
It was cold and wet.
In a game
Remember.
we only played for 40 minutes as well. We were dreadful in the first half, really, really dreadful.
Yeah.
And second half played much, much better. And then obviously we had them back in Dublin, and Francois Strain lost his head trying to take somebody's off.
Yeah.
And we beat them quite handily. But even before that, we were doing very, very well against them, if you recall.
We were, yeah.
Adam Byrne had totally demolished Nandolo on a number of occasions. So that
I'm
was
not sure how confident I am this time. And can I be the first to say, I haven't heard anyone say this anywhere yet, unless they say it between this recording and it going out. Leinster have never lost to French opposition in the RDS yet.
Really?
That may only last a few. It was your research that told me that, Jason.
Good on you.
We've lost 12 times in the RDS, and none of the times have been to.
The narrative has already started about this game, that it's Leinster plucky defenders of honour and Corinthian ideals against big spending mega bucks.
Are we going to debunk it?
No, I don't think it's any different. But I don't think there's anything. I mean, they have spent a fortune on assembling one of the most expensive teams in rugby.
Yeah.
The difference I would see
Good coach too.
is they have to. Because they've nothing coming through.
Exactly. And if you said to an outsider, didn't know much about rugby, that there's going to be a match on in Dublin at the weekend, one team has a load of South Africans and Kiwis and Aussies and Fijians playing for them, cool. And the other team has a load of fellas that played on the Lions, has a load of fellas that plays international rugby. They'd say it's pretty much evenly matched.
Yeah.
And especially considering that the guys that played for the Lions and played for Ireland have beaten the best team in the world. You know, so I think Cullen is kind of trying to stir up a little bit of, poor us and build them up a little bit. But I do think it's a bit of a fallacy to say. Because
I think it's true, but I think the other side of the story is that...
Like just say Henshaw, for instance. I've no idea what players earn. I don't really want to know what players earn. But he's a bloody good player, and I'm sure if he was to go to Montpellier or
he'd be top dollar.
He'd get a lot of money. Likewise, I'm sure Sexto would be. We know he did.
John O'Brien, Jack Coleman,
you named them.
Yeah.
Jamie Heaslip, any of them could have.
Tyke Furlong.
Tyke Furlong could name. He's a tight head prop who can play rugby. He could name his figure right now.
And I'm sure that they do get well rewarded by playing by continuing to play their rugby in Ireland.
Yeah. So
they, even though Cullen might necessarily be able to go and say, do you know who I'd like to buy this week? They can't do that.
But the other side of that is
clever who they buy.
The other side of that is it doesn't matter how much money Leinster would have, because we can't spend it anyway. We can only spend it on so many players anyway, and those players have to be strategic. So I mean,
and can I just make one final point? A couple of seasons, or maybe it was last season, you saw Munster demolishing Racing Metro, and O'Gara, the coach, scratching his head, kind of going, "We've assembled a bloody expensive team here with loads of caps. Maybe their age profile isn't what's required, and you can't deny how important 15 guys wanting to play for the team is."
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's the other side of it. I mean, I always say that, yes, they have 36 million to spend on the team, but the other side of it is they've no choice in the matter. I mean, Montpellier haven't brought through, or Montpellier and their surrounding clubs haven't brought through, 23 guys who are capable of playing international rugby the way that Leinster, Munster, Ulster, Connacht have. I mean, they brought through 120 guys who are capable of playing at that level.
It's an apples and oranges situation.
But that's what I'm saying.
It's a club's.
I wouldn't. I don't like to. I see it, and I can see why the coaches do it, because it kind of makes it seem a certain way. It's not strictly accurate, though.
It's not like that.
It's accurate, but it's not the truth of it.
But it's not like that they are, say, a League of Ireland team
No.
competing in the Champions League against
Yeah.
a Man United
Absolutely
or
not.
or AC Milan or whoever, because
The only
clearly
difference,
not.
the difference is not necessarily in the quality of the players. The difference is the method they've been assembled.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
That's very well put.
So we kind of touched on it. There's rumours that Issa and Sean will be fit. Hopefully they will be available for selection.
Yeah.
It'll make for some interesting, if they are, it'll make for some interesting conundrums. If they're not, I can't see things being wildly different than the game against Munster. I mean, our front five and our back three individually went. I was thinking about that game and I was thinking, you know, why did Leinster play well? And you'd have to say no, but then you look, the front five played well.
Mm.
Our line-out was much improved on what it had been before.
Yeah.
Our back row played well. I mean, Munster back row has been vaunted, and I thought our back row played very well. And our half backs as a unit played well, and our
Yeah.
centres as a unit played well. It was just a matter of stitching it all together.
Yeah.
That's where it kind of fell down, and that's what you happened. I mean, that was their first game, so you have that.
That is the big advantage Montpellier have. They started
Yeah.
2 weeks before we did. They
Yeah.
played trial games, as they called them, in the Southern Hemisphere. They played friendlies before
With
a
all
few
their,
weeks before
with all
that.
the current selection.
With all their lads,
Yeah.
they've got all the gears. They can go through all the gears. They've got all the stuff cooking and pumping there. I know they rotate their team a bit, but they've all
They've
played.
lost their last two matches.
They have. They were going pretty well up to that, but they did rest a lot of guys this week, last weekend. Like
So I
Aaron
thought they
Cruden.
have this enormous
do?
squad that they can.
They do have an enormous squad, but you see the
They
problem
seem
is
to
that, I
be
mean,
prioritising.
they've an enormous squad of guys who are there to. I mean, no, that's not. It's not necessarily true to say that they're just there to pick up a paycheck. Because if you sign top dollar players, you get top dollar performances. There's usually a reason why these guys are so good. Like for example, Room Pinar. Room Pinar is not going to be that. Well, he might be because he's sick of how it ended. But other guys wouldn't be like that, you know. So, but there's an element. There's always an element with a French team in Dublin. You know, I don't want to come over all Colonel Blimp, but
Here's
they
hoping.
don't like it up them.
Here's
I
hoping.
mean, you get them in the ODS. Maybe it's a bit windy, the wind
Yeah.
a bit blowy, noise coming down, a high ball on top of them, Adam Byrne at full speed. You know, they won't like that.
Well, you just see that if you look at this contrast of the two score lines from last season,
Yeah,
they beat us 22-16. I'm sure they were gutted, coughing up a bonus point at home, and then in round 5, when they were kind of out of it,
Slaughterize them.
57-3.
yeah.
Yeah.
And admittedly, they did have the red card, which is.
Okay,
But we were doing them before the red card arrived.
They were going down.
Yeah.
They just accelerated the
They were
method of
going
their.
down to Funky Town.
That's it.
but is there any word on when James Lowe is available, or when he
Yes.
when he be in the country?
When the NPC is over.
There's a friend of mine in London who is a Tasman fan, who is
You have the oddest friends.
Kiwi Pete.
They support the oddest range of
Well,
clubs.
Kiwi Pete is from.
Kiwi
uh,
Pete?
Kiwi Pete.
He's from Marlborough.
He's from Bradford.
He's from where they make that level
I
Sauvignon
love what they
Blanc.
made. Aussie George from Wigan.
Surely you, as a Leinster fan, you've sampled the beautiful Marlborough Sauvignon Blancs that they have in that part of the world. No?
I drink beer meat.
Yeah, I know that, Dave. Anyway, yeah, he's a Tasman fan, and he reckons, and I would agree with him. Looking at it, they've only 2 fixtures left.
Yeah.
That they're going to go to a playoff, and it's possibly going to be against the Crusaders. I haven't looked at it in the
See you
last
later,
week or so. Well, not see you later, but it means they're going to a semi-final. So, okay, they could lose the semi-final, but he still won't be coming in the next few weeks. It'll still be November. So.
Okay, so he's
And
not
if he goes, well, he might. I think he might arrive the very end of October if. You know,
Yeah. When
it's
Tasman's season's over.
Effectively,
he'll
it's
be here for
November.
round 3. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
No, he'd be here as soon as the
Autumn Internationals.
Autumn International start. He'll be here, you know, because everything is finished.
As I,
in the Southern Hemisphere by
if my memory serves, at most Macos have 4 games left. At most.
Most, yeah.
Yeah, and that includes
Maybe even 3.
if they get to the final.
I think there's only one. There's only one round.
There
Or
one's-
maybe there's 2
anyway.
rounds.
But at most they have 4.
Yeah. So I think the week of, if they go out in the semi-final, they'd be here. He could be here the week of the Ulster game.
Yeah.
And if they don't, he could be here the following week. So we shall see.
Mm.
Be nice to see him anyway. In the when the internationals are away,
Nice to have a player
Yeah,
that's
we're-
stepping in, yeah.
Leinster are back. I think the week
Mhm.
of the Argentina game. So I'd say that's when you're going to see him make his seasonal debut, and I can't remember, I think he might be away to Treviso or something like that.
Seems very tired. He's just played the whole season, Super Rugby.
He's a big, strong boy.
Well, guys that are coming back, from the Lions, this will be their third game. The likes of Sexton, Furlong, Jack McGrath.
Yeah, sorry.
So they'll be getting
They'll be
back.
hitting their straps.
I rambled off when I never finished that point.
Sorry, John.
Well, it wasn't your fault. That the Montpellier have played a lot more together than we have. We are really only just starting to ramp up. It's not a great. If we had another 2 weeks before we played Montpellier, it'd be a lot better to get our, as Dave said, to get all of our cogs working in the same. You know, we've got all the systems just about happening.
It's a very tough. Well, I mean, this group is really, really tough.
Yeah.
You just see that our three opposition teams in it, and there's no real gimme or easy games in that at all. You said, well, Montpellier, maybe it is, but Montpellier are,
damn good,
third in the top 14. Exeter won it. I think they're second in the.
They're having a few wobbles though.
Glasgow are unbeaten this season.
But the other side of that is they're looking at us and going, "Oh crap, it's Leinster." So there's both sides to it. I know what you mean, but I think sometimes we forget what we've achieved and how good we are.
But I read a piece that Ian McGeechan wrote, and I just thought it was very kind of cliched. Insofar as, you can't discount the Irish provinces.
No, but hopefully we've won it a shitload of times.
We have, but not for 5 years. So we have the pedigree, but there's not too many lads still currently in our squad who played in those matches. There is some. But
what we should do is get Nam. Right, we have Nam, and it's kind of wondering what to do at the moment. Because there's not much debt lying around to buy. I know where there's loads of debt to buy.
I know where you're going.
Where am I going? I'm going to the. No, I'm not. No.
Okay.
I'm going to the Guinness Premiership.
Okay.
There's bucket loads of debt there. You should buy that and start closing them.
Okay.
They've got the money.
I thought you were going to have a jibe at Thomond Park there, Dave. Well done for avoiding.
There are literally no more original jokes that can be made about Thomond Park.
Well, we move on to some of the other fixtures. Ulster, we kind of touched on it briefly. Ulster take on Wasps.
When it gets done.
Well, Wasps have had a poor enough opening to their season. They've only won 2 out of 6 in the Premiership. They're certainly not firing. Like Ulster are 5 from 6.
I will say that
you might say the quality of the two. I don't know. Some people might.
I will say this.
I'm looking forward to let's actually seeing. A team that's not so great in the Premier. I mean,
English teams tend to come over and shit themselves when they get to with the exception of Saracens actually. They tend to really perform very badly in Ravenhill. Whether they drive them in via the Divis or something, I don't know. But they do tend to, if you notice that, I mean, Leicester came over and didn't go well. Wasps came over a couple of years ago, didn't go well. Toulouse. Now Saracens are, because
they're pretty good.
They're the Borg.
Because they're the Borg. Didn't suffer that, but English teams have suffered in Ravenhill. It's a fair point to make, alright. Kingspan, whatever it's called now.
Bravespan.
Yeah, well, it's a Friday night match, so there's always a good atmosphere on Friday nights up there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that one actually.
Plenty of good booing.
Well, yeah. Or what was this? There was some fella from London Irish that they thought that they were giving racist abuse to him, and they weren't. It was dodgy kicker.
No, they call him a spide. It's a Belfast term for a knacker. Your man's a wee spade, and he thought they were calling him a spade.
Okay.
That's right.
It was actually the never slow to take umbrage Dylan Armitage.
That's exactly who it was. Yes.
Yeah. Couldn't happen to a nicer chap.
So
give him something to do between exchanging slaps with children in Donnybrook that time.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, Ospreys have an unenviable task of playing Claremont.
Poor bastard.
Only saving grace is the match in Swansea.
The only saving grace is they got Saracens after that. I'm sorry for laughing, but God love them. That's like they're playing so shit, and then they've got the 2 top teams in Europe in their group. Like it's just it's not pleasant.
It's not fair, is it?
It's not fair or pleasant, and I'm sorry for laughing. any for you 0.7 of an Ospreys fan that might be watching. Yeah, it's where do you go from
Saracens are
there?
going to go through that group like a dose of salts.
I'm afraid so. Yeah.
I see. Claremont
Claremont might rumble them
Claremont
in
might
Claremont.
take some points off them.
Might.
But Claremont aren't having a particularly stellar season or start to season either. Like they've only won 3 from 7.
No.
That's because they lost Channel Gibbs.
But the
of course.
thing, yeah, well maybe so. But the thing is that the French, like when I do these comparisons at the start of every European Cup, and I go through, because they've only played a small number of games, they just basically, because they won 3 out of 7 because they played 4 away.
Yeah, and in fact, that's who bothers their arse away
Exactly.
from home kind of
And then
thing.
someone else is leading the table because they've won 4 out of 7
Yeah.
because they've played 4 of them 7 matches at home. Anyway, well, we spoke about the Saracens. They take on Saints. There's an all-English affair, 3rd and 1st.
That must be on BT Sport.
Oh, no doubt.
I mean, those English derbies can actually be quite fruity, but I can't see anyone stopping Saracens.
No, least of all Saints.
No.
Where is it? Is it in the Gardens?
It's in the Gardens, yeah.
Unlikely but possible.
Now, the other team in our group, Exeter take on Glasgow.
Good game to watch, I'd say.
It will be. Obviously, we mentioned that Glasgow were undefeated, but they got to the quarter-final last year in Europe.
Yeah, that's right.
Which was I think one of the first times that they managed to get out of their pool.
The
It
first
was a tricky pool.
Yeah.
I mean, they had Munster and Leicester and
The two
Crossing.
the two teams that you would have expected to top it
Yeah. Bottomed it.
actually
Yeah,
bottomed it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it can't be underestimated, the achievement.
No.
I don't know if that. I mean,
But they need to do it. Like we talk about, I don't know, Munster getting to 15 semi-finals and Leinster had 12 or 13, whatever we are. Like that's the standard that the Glasgow's, teams with ambition
yeah.
need to get. They need to be getting out of your pool, winning your quarter-final, and at least make it.
Well, you got to wait at least 12 years for
If you
that.
look at the history,
No, but you got to be doing it on a regular basis.
I know,
Like, we haven't
so-
done it. We haven't done it in probably 4 seasons. Got out of the pool.
if you look at the history of the European Cup, it was a time when Bath were dominant, but Munster, Leinster, and Ulster, or one of them, were getting out of their pools and into the knockouts. There was a time when Toulouse were dominant, and Leinster, Munster, and Ulster, one of them were getting out of their pools. There was times when Saints were dominant, when Leicester were dominant, but the Irish teams were always there. I mean, in terms of European rugby, it's always the Irish teams who are. I mean, teams have come and gone, but the Irish teams have always stayed.
Like
They've always been
for
competitive.
instance, since we last won it, we've been in 2 semi-finals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we regard that as such a long wait without one.
If you kind of said, well, how many times were Saracens in a semi-final prior to them winning it?
0.
Well, I think maybe once or twice.
Oh,
but,
sorry, they were actually.
But the point is, though, like it's such an infrequent thing that they've
Dave
done.
Munster actually.
I think they did, yeah. But it'd be a fairly infrequent amount of times. Whereas it's kind of a bare minimum that is expected. Like, they sacked Matt O'Connor from getting into the semi-final in Europe.
You look at these teams come and go. Whether a benefactor has a heart attack and the team slides down, and Castle were a dominant team and their benefactor passed away. It can only be a matter of months before the fraud squad call around to Allianz Park, and go, where exactly is that 50 million, sir? What do you mean it's in Bloemfontein? And that team was like, I mean, it's cyclical because if you build a team on shifting sands, the sands collapse.
In fairness, Nigel Ray's been there since the dawn of professionalism, and he's still there. I know he's not the money guy.
No, he's the figurehead.
He's still there. So you can't fault them for dedication.
No.
Nobody likes them, but hey,
They don't care.
They don't care, and I think that's why they're so good on the road.
I do like. I don't.
But they are kind of different.
I don't dislike them. Like last year, I thought they were a superb team. They were so, and they were a good team to watch. They had been a dour team, but they evolved. I thought last year they were a lovely team to watch.
We slag off. But we were critical of Montpellier for not developing any talent through their academies and through the youths coming through. That can't be said about Saracens.
No.
They do develop.
But they do buy in a few lads as well.
Yes, they do, and they pay them very well.
That's what puzzled me last year. I mean, the narrative around the European Cup final was it was the brave, plucky bastions of amateurism in Claremont versus the ravening hordes of professional whoredom that are Saracens. And the reality was the complete opposite. In that team that Claremont fielded, they had 2 homegrown players. 2.
And Saracens had a shitload.
And Saracens had a shitload, but that wasn't the narrative. The narrative was very, very different to the reality.
That's because there's an emotional attachment for some reason, bizarrely,
Claremont.
from Leinster's point of view, maybe because we've been
Played them
involved with
so
so
many times.
many epic games,
Yeah.
and people have enjoyed their time going down.
And
Their
that's
fans are great.
And that's fair enough. But at the end of the day, they are perhaps the most mercenary-laden team in Europe. You know, that's the reality.
Well, I think a lot of French teams are.
Well, I mean, I know, and it's wrong to judge French rugby by our own standards, because we have our system, so we can't really judge them by the standards of our system. We shouldn't really. But if you're going to pretend to be something, at least be something close to it.
Well, you're slagging me for having a bizarre group of rugby friends, and in the same group
Claremont Mick.
as Kiwi Pete from Tasman is a chap who is from Glasgow but lives in Exeter. And
Divided loyalties.
there you go. His 2 favourite teams are playing each other this weekend.
Does he take clotted cream on his neeps and tatties?
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly, and put some fine wine with it as well. So he's got an interesting weekend ahead, and we're actually meeting him for our game over there, and he's going back for the one. We're doing the back-to-backs with him, so we'll probably meet him, lads, at some.
Good stuff. Well, no doubt the travelling hordes of the Red Army will be already swanning their way down to the south of France, looking for a bit of late autumn sunshine.
Spending their money anywhere that won't do Munster any good.
Well, we've all gone to cast, and getting cast first up is probably the hardest time to get cast.
Because the best time to get there is at Christmas, when the Christmas market is on.
Yeah, from a fan point of view. However, meanwhile, back at the rugby, the best time to get them is usually in round 6, when they're going, do you know what, lad? We can't be arsed with this. Bring on the top 14.
Didn't quite work out for us.
No, that's because
I think Cast have kind of
we beat them 22-all.
Yeah.
Down there.
But they're a bit of a busted flush. They're 11th. They've only won 2 of their.
But they're still.
games.
You've still got to go away. Like, we've got a much tougher team coming to the RDS, but
Of
at least we're in the RDS.
Yeah.
They've got a much easier team on paper, but they've got to go to the home of, and no French team likes to lay down at home in round 1 of anything. So I think Munster, without their 2 big seconds, they've still got Capo Ortega. He's still wheeling himself around.
No, they might have John Klein back.
No, I'm talking about Castro.
Oh, sorry, Castro. Sorry. No. I don't know.
If he's still wheeling himself around, because he is about 36, Uruguayan international Roland Capo Ortega.
Oh no,
he's a big beast.
Fine player.
And they've got a few big beasts, and that's the thing Munster lack, unless they get Klein back on the field. They've got Mark Flanagan, and they've got the 2 lads that started last week. That's it, I think.
Yeah.
Wycherley's banned, and he's only 19 or 20. Everyone else is injured. So that's a kind of a real weakness against, when you come up against a scrummaging pack from the south of France. That's Munster could be in trouble there.
I don't know how much truth there is to it, but I'm told that Munster put in a huge effort over the summer to get Ultan Dillane, and it came to nothing. But it might not come to nothing next year.
We shall see.
But that's what I was told, because Munster have identified that they have a weakness in the second row, and they have Klein, who's good, and he's Irish qualified this year or next? This year?
I think it's next year.
The John Klein, who will be Irish qualified soon. The Finian Wycherley, who's young and talented, with nothing in between.
Ty Byrne, right?
Oh, one of the Ty Byrne coming in next year.
I think this is Klein's second season, so he'll have to go all the way through a 3rd season.
Yeah,
it won't even be next November, it'll be the one after, I think.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, the other 2 teams in Munster's group are Racing and Leicester Tigers.
Again,
But it just, and there's another group there's another fixture. I think it's Toulon against Scarlets that also featured last season.
Yeah.
So there's, because
with the narrowing of the competition.
Exactly, they took out 4 teams. There's going to be a lot of repetition of
which I don't necessarily think is a good thing, because I think people get bored playing the same teams all the time.
Yeah, and fans.
What the people want, Dave.
Yeah. It really wasn't.
Yeah.
So
if those people were Nigel Ray, Bruce Craig, and what's his name, the McCafferty.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that his name?
Yeah. Well, Racing, they hammered the Tigers last year. I think it was 34-3 in one of the final rounds of the when was it
It was a nothing game,
and that pretty much the other two teams were going to go through and qualify. So you can't really read anything into that. But
our old friend Matt O'Connor is down in the Tigers.
He is, and Dominic Ryan.
And it's a different thing as well. I mean, it has to be said. I mean, Munster, that group last year was kind of skewed by Munster and what happened to the late Anthony Foley. It did skew the Munster's performances in that group.
Yeah.
It's going to be very different this year, in terms of there won't be that. I mean, for example, was it Racing they had first in Thomond Park, pretty much, and did the only polite thing possible.
That was Glasgow.
Oh, it was Glasgow. Sorry, did the only polite thing possible, kind of lie down in front of them, and to a certain extent, Munster were so fired up there was never going to be any other team that was going to win in Thomond Park. You have to wonder will Munster, without that emotional energy, without that motivation, and without some of the players that they had last year. For example, they're without Tate, who's out injured. They don't have Siley anymore. Jean Klein is there.
He was injured a lot anyway.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. But they don't have that range. They don't have those players.
Farrell's looking a bit one-dimensional as well.
He is. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that group was skewed last season.
That's
out of
very
recognition,
true.
I think.
Well, in fairness to Farrell, he's only there a wet day.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's not. He's only again. He's only and
Tete was going to be ahead of him. So.
And he's been out of Irish rugby or certainly Western European rugby, shall I say, for quite a while. So it's going to take him a while to get back into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One match that I just really want Treviso to win is against Bath. For so many reasons. It would be just.
Bath has been lovely hosts, Jason.
Are any of them named Bruce?
Yes, and it would be.
Would any of them be called Mr. Craig?
But it would just really put a cat amongst the pigeons for because Treviso have certainly improved this year. I don't think they're any world beaters, of course they're not. But
please tell me it's in Treviso.
It's not. It's in Bath.
Being better then.
It would be better, but forget it.
I guess Bath when it's great shakes.
No, but I can't see them going down to Treviso in Europe.
No.
Sadly.
I remember Treviso beating, I think it was Biarritz.
That's right.
That's right.
Like a long time ago in the
Not long ago.
Well, it's long enough ago that Biarritz were in European
That's true,
top level competition,
Yeah.
Probably 5 years ago.
Might be a bit more, might be near 7, I'd say.
Okay.
Might be, you could be right. But I don't see it happening.
And so just to round off one of the last fixtures is Toulon against Scarlets.
Could be a good game.
That could be a good game, alright.
Yeah,
because there was close enough fixtures between them in the last couple of years.
Well, Toulon won last one when Toulon won home 31-20, but Scarlets won the reverse fixture in Parky Scarlets 22-21.
Lee Halfpenny will know all their tactics.
All their tic-tacs. That could be a good game, actually. Toulon are not what they once were, and Scarlets have got better. So it could be
show.
Yeah.
Scarlets are playing so far above. There's a team now that are playing like a team.
Yeah.
They don't have any more money than, well, they've a bit more than Cardiff.
But not a huge amount.
They don't have a huge amount more. They don't have a huge amount more money than Ospreys. Probably even less money than Ospreys. They are in a place where the population of Clonetly is 45,000 and the stadium holds 1/3 of that. Now they do have a bit of a hinterland, but they've got the Ospreys 15 miles down the road from them, so they haven't got that much of a hinterland to drag supporters from.
Not a huge amount of money in the area either.
And there's not a huge to the other side, to the west side of Clonetly. It's quite
it's
isolated rural area.
Yeah.
And the rest of their region has no interest whatsoever.
But that's up to north,
isn't
it?
Yeah.
Technically have North Wales as part of their region.
And they've no interest in rugby.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Scarlets have a whole heap of interest in
North Wales
either. But apart
remember
from
we met,
George North
when we met those two lads? We met two lads maybe you weren't, in Clonetly. And they drove down every week, or every second week, from up where Chester or wherever, up
That's
North
an awful
Wales.
drive
And
too.
drove all the way down
That's
to matches.
Awful drive.
To watch Clonetly. Yeah.
Well, just to finish off on Clonetly, on Scarlets, they are performing so far above their means in terms of the quality of their players, the amount of money they have, and it's not a very rich part of the world, Clonetly, as we all know from being there. and they're the essence of a team that are playing like a team and playing for each other. Look at Byrne going into them and
But we were talking about the Irish team earlier. There's
buying into
no huge superstars in the Irish soccer team, and yet the sum
Speaking of Wales,
greater than the whole of the parts. And well, that's that. I agree with you. It just shows. It's kind of the same as Connacht were a couple of years ago. That you've got good players, well coached, who do the right
playing
things
for each other,
and play for each other.
Yeah.
And that makes it that you don't have to have all the money in the world. If you do that, you do the right things in a structure that allows you to perform.
Yeah.
Exactly, absolutely. Couldn't agree more with you. And just round off the final game is Quins against La Rochelle. So
The great unknown.
the great unknown. Like I was looking at.
That's us just group actually.
It's nice for Quins to be in the big competition because they always seem to be permanently in semi-finals of the Challenge Cup.
They do. Or playing Connacht.
Or playing Stade Francais in the Challenge Cup. That seems to be, every time I turn on the television, Quins are playing Stade Francais in the Challenge Cup.
I was just, as I was going through these earlier on today, I just looked at the top 14 table. It's kind of a bit upside down at the moment. There's Lyon are first,
What?
La Rochelle fourth, Bordeaux fifth, and a team that I've never heard of before, Selection Palouse.
That's
Pow.
Po. Section Powa.
All right.
Yeah. That's Po.
Okay.
But again, as you were saying earlier, it could be that those teams have played more home games.
Exactly. Yeah.
Than it's literally like that. And
It's a lottery, mate.
There is as well. It's not to the extent that it is in Ireland. Nowhere it is. There is an element of some of the French players have been rested after the summer. They've kind of bowed a little bit to public pressure that way. So all those guys have to fall back into the.
Well, that actually brings me on to my final little discussion tonight. Was particularly Da Young in Wasps has been very critical of some of the new law changes that have come out. He's saying that there's up to 50 more collisions per game.
Seeing that already.
Players are putting or teams are putting less players out into the rucks because they don't want to. The IRB, World Rugby don't want a competition for rugby. So they're just putting the fanning out in defence and put the extra guys in, and as a result,
you got these rugby league style collisions.
Yeah, and
You beat me to it.
Yeah,
I was going to say, why don't they get rid of the wing forwards?
Don't even joke about it because some of these loo balls in World Rugby, I agree with them. I think I don't like. The thing I like least about rugby these days is how there's no competition on the ground for the ball.
Yeah,
That's
when there's a turnover at a ruck, it just gives such a impetus and a surge to the crowd, especially if it's a home team, that they actually competed and went in there, and because it's a skill, it's like when you see somebody going over the top of a ruck.
Ty Burns making a fortune out of it,
there is no sight more glorious in rugby than an open side flanker somehow winkling a ball out from the other side of the ruck. I mean, it's what our game is about, and
that makes it quite unique.
It does, and these legislators. I mean, I always think that the whole point of the game of rugby is a contest for the ball.
Yeah.
Everything you do, if you have a law that stops a contest for the ball, get rid of it. Because the whole game, that's why I've never liked, for example, Mauls. I've said this hundreds of times, everybody's trying to listen to me. Because the Maul doesn't allow a contest for the ball.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why I've never liked it. But, that's part of it's part of our game. It's been part of our game since 1904 when they changed the scrum laws. Anyway, but the current ruck laws prohibit a contest for the ball. So I don't like them. So I think they should be got rid of. And we should go back to where we were 10 years ago.
I agree.
I mean, can anyone say that the game has improved since then? I don't think it has.
No, but like
got a lot more money in it.
But
the sport itself hasn't got better.
But you look at
ironic, Dave.
You look at the English.
You sound like such an old man.
You look at the English players, English coaches coming out and saying our players are now playing too many games. It's an interesting thing because a few years ago they were slagging off particularly the Irish teams, but in the Celtic League as it was, that they weren't played enough, that they were rested, and I remember reading Stephen Jones and he was saying even though Munster were winning European Cups and Leinster were winning European Cups, if they had to play the same standard league,
if they had relegation,
no, it wasn't that relegation, but if they were playing to the same standard week in week out in the Aviva Premiership or the Guinness Premiership probably at the time, that the players would have been physically exhausted. They wouldn't be able to compete then at a European level.
just like Northampton were in the second half in 2011 final.
Well,
long season.
the thing I found ironic about that was that they bring over their entire first
Teams
team
play the
to play
pre-season
the
friendly.
season in Donnybrook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if they want to cut down players,
Yeah,
it'd be-
cut that.
out.
I mean,
Another
the-
interesting-
your first mistake was reading Stephen Jones.
Well, fair enough.
But
It was
I
a
mean,
long time ago.
I'm on record as say I think we over rest our players, but there's a happy medium.
Yeah.
The problem, yes, you are right. There are too many, and well, it's not that you're right. The statistics show that there are too many collisions in the game. So if you take out some of the collisions, and you bring the game back to its more traditional roots, as in a contest for the ball, in the ground, on the ground, and in the air.
This law change has
with the
increased
hooker.
the collisions.
That's what I'm saying. If you
in the first 7 rounds of
Yeah.
Aviva Premiership matches.
So go back.
Well, the,
Say,
the,
oh, okay, this is detrimental to player health.
the other thing the players are complaining about, which is quite interesting, is because they're trying to make the season longer, effectively, with the new way the new season is going to work in World Rugby. There's going to be a longer season for all sides, all clubs and all competitions, and they're talking about having a set number of matches that you're allowed to play. And the problem that players will have with that is, like, it's no good saying, oh yeah, there's, let's say for the sake of argument, 36 matches in a season and you're only allowed to play 25 of them. The point is that if your team is in real trouble and you're supposed to be resting that weekend, you're not resting that weekend. You know, there's no, like, when a season ends, the season ends, and you know that you're not playing next week because there is no game. But when the season goes on for a long period of time, it doesn't matter that you're only allowed to play 25 of 35, let's say, games. You might have to exceed that in extreme circumstances, and it's the fact that it's hanging over you as a player that you can't mentally switch off for any part of the season because the season itself is too
There
good.
was an interesting.
And so just to fill in on that point. And of course, the thing is, when you stretch a season, you stretch out the starting and the finishing point.
Yeah.
Then the money men are going to want to fill in any blanks
Exactly.
with extra revenue earning opportunities, which are in this sport games.
Yeah, which they've just done they have
Yeah.
another
playoff,
game off
yeah,
now,
yeah.
but there's another one now for the final 7th.
Yeah,
position.
yeah, that's what I mean. The playoff, yeah.
Sorry,
that's what I meant.
But just going back a little bit, like, it was an interesting quote today I read from Razzie, who mentioned if he could go back and change things, he felt that he didn't rotate his squad enough. It's interesting to hear a coach say that you'd imagine, right, that they would want the best 15 guys on the pitch as often as possible, much to, say, Joe Schmidt's dismay. But what he said was that he found that come towards the end of the season, I suppose when they were hockeyed by Saracens and didn't perform then in the final against against Scarlets, that his players, he said, what I was found was
They were
that
fresh.
that I had players that had some players had 2,000 minutes and some players had 400 or 500 minutes, as opposed to spreading those out more evenly, which is a good thing, I think, to hear.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and he's right as well, of course, because I mean, if you have everybody coming up fresh, and if you've got a squad that you've developed into such a where the difference between the guys who are on the pitch and the guys who are on the bench and the guys who are on the stand, are a matter of choice rather than a matter of ability, then you're in a good place. But no, I agree with you. I agree with pretty much. I mean, Di Young actually does talk a lot of sense, when he's not talking about us. But he's the game is moving away from what the game should be about. The game is it's almost becoming too much of an athletic contest, not enough of an intellectual one. I mean, rugby was always about, we all talk about the great rugby players and how they were all great physical guys, but they were also really, really clever guys. I mean, Willie Duggan was a really, really clever guy. Willie John was a really, really clever guy. Colin Meads was a really, really clever player. And it was the intelligence that they brought to a rugby pitch is what made them great rugby players.
Arguably.
I was going to agree with you.
Yeah, that's what I got to say.
Well, anyway, boys, as ever, thanks very much. And if you're going along on Saturday, enjoy the game. Cheers. Thanks for watching.